Bella stood in front of the mirror, her hands slightly shaking as she looked at herself in the white wedding gown. The room was bright, full of laughter and flowers. Outside, music played softly while people moved about, excited for the big day. Melissa walked in wearing her bridesmaid dress. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at her sister. "You're glowing, sis. You deserve this," Melissa said gently. Bella smiled, tears in her eyes. "And you'll find your own happy ending soon." They hugged tightly. The photographer clicked pictures as guests began to fill the hall. Everything looked perfect. The flowers, the music, the smiles. A few minutes later, Daniel appeared at the altar, handsome and confident. Everyone admired him. Bella walked toward him, her heart beating fast. When she reached him, she could barely hold back her tears of joy. "You're my peace, Daniel. My forever," she whispered during her vows. The crowd clapped. The moment felt like a dream. Later that evening, during the reception, Bella danced barefoot on the shiny floor. Her laughter echoed through the hall, while Melissa recorded her on her phone, smiling behind the camera. Bella's voice echoed softly in the background, like a thought from her heart. "If someone told me my happiest day would also be the day my heart started dying, I wouldn't have believed them." As the night grew quiet, Bella walked back toward her bridal suite, humming to herself. The hallway was silent except for a soft giggle coming from the room. A giggle she knew too well. Melissa's. Bella's steps slowed. She frowned, confused. The door was half open. She pushed it gently. And then everything stopped. Daniel's shirt was half unbuttoned. Melissa's dress strap had slipped down her shoulder. His hand rested on her back. For a moment, Bella couldn't breathe. Her world went still. The music from the hall faded away. She dropped her bouquet. The white petals scattered across the floor like pieces of her heart. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. The lights flickered softly as she stood frozen at the doorway, staring at the two people she loved most in the world, her husband and her sister. Everything turned quiet, fade to black. When Bella and Melissa were little, they were the closest sisters anyone could imagine. After their parents died in a car accident, the world became a hard place for them. They only had each other. Bella, the older one, became both sister and mother to Melissa. She cooked, comforted her, and made sure she never felt alone. Bella once dreamed of studying abroad and becoming a fashion designer. But after the accident, she gave up that dream. She stayed behind so Melissa could finish school. "You've always been the responsible one, Bella," Aunt Grace often said. "Melissa, she just needs guidance." And Bella gave that guidance. She worked part-time jobs, paid the bills, and supported her sister through every stage of life. When Melissa failed her first year in college, it was Bella who sold her jewelry to pay the next semester's fees. They shared laughter, secrets, and the kind of bond built from pain and survival. Years passed. Bella graduated and started working in marketing. Her life finally began to feel stable. Then she met Daniel, tall, confident, and full of charm. He was an architect with kind eyes and a soft smile that made her feel seen again. When she brought him home, Melissa adored him immediately. She teased Bella constantly. "He's perfect brother-in-law material," she would laugh. At first, everything felt normal. They were one happy circle, Bella, Daniel, and Melissa. But slowly, small things began to change. Daniel liked to joke with Melissa, sometimes a little too much. He'd compliment her hair, her dress, her laugh. Bella noticed but told herself not to overthink it. "He's too smooth, Bella," Melissa once teased. "You better keep him on a leash." "Daniel's not like that," Bella replied, smiling, though deep down she wasn't sure. Then came the late-night calls Daniel said were for work. The nights he came home smelling of a perfume that wasn't hers. When Bella tried to ask questions, he'd dismiss her with a calm smile. "You worry too much," he'd say, kissing her forehead. She wanted to believe him. She needed to. When Daniel proposed, she said yes through tears, hoping marriage would bring peace and stability. She thought the wedding would be the start of forever. She didn't know it would be the beginning of heartbreak. Now, 2 weeks after the wedding, Bella wakes up every morning pretending nothing happened. She hasn't told anyone what she saw that night, not Aunt Grace, not even Melissa. She moves through her days quietly, helping Daniel with his breakfast, answering his calls, wearing her wedding ring. To the world, she's a happy new bride. But inside she's broken. Every time she closes her eyes, she sees it again. Daniel's hand on Melissa's back, the laughter in their voices, the shock on his face when he realized she was standing there. She wonders how her sister could look her in the eye afterward. How Daniel could still say, "I love you," like nothing happened. At night, when the house is silent, she sits by the window, replaying the scene in her mind until tears blur her vision. Her voice whispers softly in her head, like a memory she can't escape. Betrayal doesn't scream. It whispers in familiar voices, and every whisper hurts a little more than the last. Bella waited for days, hoping Daniel would come to her and tell the truth. But he acted like nothing had happened. He kissed her on the forehead, called her love, and spoke with that same calm voice that once made her feel safe. Now it only made her feel sick. One evening, she couldn't take it anymore. Her hands were shaking as she walked into the living room where Daniel was watching TV. "I saw you," she said quietly. "That night. You and Melissa." Daniel looked up slowly, his face unreadable. "You're imagining things," he said coldly. "You were drunk that night. Don't ruin what we have with paranoia." Bella's mouth went dry. His words cut deep. For a moment she almost believed him. Almost. But then she remembered the way Melissa had laughed, the way Daniel's hand had rested on her back. "Don't lie to me," she whispered. He sighed, stood up, and walked past her. "I don't have time for your drama, Bella." Her chest tightened as if someone had tied a knot inside her heart. He was twisting everything, making her doubt her own eyes. That night, she cried quietly in bed while Daniel slept soundly beside her, as if nothing had happened. The next morning, she called Melissa. No answer. She tried again and again, but Melissa never picked up. Messages went unread. Days passed, and the silence grew heavier. Finally, Bella drove to Aunt Grace's house. She hoped maybe Melissa was there. And she was, sitting on the couch, laughing, scrolling through her phone like life was perfect. Bella's voice trembled. "Tell me it wasn't real." Melissa froze for a second, then gave a nervous laugh. "You're being dramatic, Bella. You know Daniel's like a brother to me." Bella's eyes filled with tears. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. "Then why did he say your name when I walked in?" The smile faded from Melissa's face. Her lips parted, but no words came out. That silence was louder than any confession. Bella turned and walked out, her heels clicking sharply on the floor. When she reached her car, she broke down completely. She leaned against the steering wheel, shaking, gasping for air. Everything she had built, every sacrifice she made, felt like it had turned to dust. Her husband, her sister, both gone in a single night. That evening, Daniel didn't come home for dinner. When he finally did, he didn't look her in the eye. He gathered some clothes and moved into the guest room without saying a word. The house became quiet, cold, and full of tension. Days passed. Bella noticed strange things. Daniel's phone always locked, messages deleted, work trips that didn't make sense. She smelled a sweet perfume on his jacket once, the same one Melissa used to wear. The truth was clear, but she no longer had the strength to cry. Her tears had run out. One night, sitting alone in the dark, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her face was pale, her eyes empty, but inside her heart something new was forming. Not love, not pain, but resolve. She whispered softly to herself, "If they want to play games, I'll stop playing nice." And that was the moment Bella stopped being the quiet, broken wife, and began becoming something stronger. Bella stopped crying and started thinking. If Daniel and Melissa wanted to play games, she would find the truth herself. She began to act normal, cooking breakfast, smiling faintly, and pretending everything was fine. But every night, when Daniel fell asleep, she turned into someone else, quiet, focused, and determined. She went through his phone whenever she got the chance, checking call logs and text messages. Most were deleted, but a few clues remained. A contact saved under another name, calls made late at night, short messages like "see you soon" and "same place." Bella started saving everything, screenshots, phone bills, and even voice notes she found in his deleted files. Her hands shook each time, but she kept going. After a few days, she decided to talk to someone she trusted. That person was Michael, Daniel's best friend. He had known Daniel since college and had always treated Bella kindly. When she told him what she suspected, Michael looked shocked. "You sure about this, Bella? You could destroy everything." Bella's eyes filled with quiet pain. They already did. Michael sighed deeply but agreed to help. Together, they searched for proof. He used his connections to check Daniel's financial records and travel logs. A week later, he called her with news that broke her heart all over again. "Bella, there's something you need to see." He showed her papers, rent payments for a small apartment under Daniel's name. The address belonged to Melissa. Bella stared at the paper, speechless. The world felt heavy again, but this time it didn't crush her, it hardened her. Heartbreak turned into anger. She realized she had wasted her tears on people who didn't deserve them. Weeks later, there was a family dinner at Aunt Grace's house. Everyone was there: Aunt Grace, Daniel, and Melissa. The air felt strange, tense. Bella sat quietly, her face calm but her heart burning inside. Melissa laughed loudly, making jokes across the table. Daniel smiled back at her, their eyes meeting for a second too long. Bella noticed. Aunt Grace noticed too. "What's going on with you two?" Aunt Grace asked, half joking. Bella set down her fork, her voice calm but sharp. "Ask your favorite niece." The table went silent. Daniel's eyes darkened. He gave Bella a warning glare, but she just smiled softly and continued eating. She wasn't afraid anymore. That night, when they got home, Daniel tried to start an argument. "What was that at dinner? You're embarrassing yourself." "No, Daniel," Bella said quietly. "I'm just done pretending." After that day, Bella began to rebuild herself piece by piece. She returned to her old marketing job. She dressed better, spoke with confidence, and smiled more. She was healing in silence. Daniel noticed the change. He wasn't used to seeing Bella strong and distant. He tried to control her again, calling her at work, questioning her outfits, demanding attention. One evening, when he raised his voice, Bella stood her ground. "You're my wife," Daniel shouted. "You'll do as I say." Bella looked straight into his eyes and replied, "Then you should have acted like my husband." Daniel had no answer. He turned away, slamming the door behind him. From that moment, Bella knew she was done living in fear. Weeks passed. She focused on her career, started therapy, and reconnected with old friends. Her smile began to return, even if it was small. But peace didn't last long. One morning, while checking her messages, Bella received a photo from an unknown number. It was of Melissa, standing outside a hospital, her hand resting on her stomach. The caption said, "She's expecting." Bella stared at the screen for a long time, not blinking. Her body went cold, her heart silent. It was as if the last piece of hope inside her had died. She sat down slowly, her mind empty. The betrayal was no longer just emotional, it was complete. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just whispered to herself, "So this is how it ends." Then, she wiped her tears, took a deep breath, and decided she wouldn't be the victim anymore. The pain was still there, but underneath it, something powerful was growing: strength. Bella spent days preparing for the dinner. She cooked her best dishes, set the table neatly, and even added candles to make it warm and welcoming. On the outside, it looked like a simple family gathering. But inside her heart, Bella knew it was the night she would finally end everything. She invited everyone: Daniel, Melissa, Aunt Grace, and Michael. When they arrived, the air was thick with awkwardness. Daniel looked tense but tried to act normal. Melissa smiled nervously, pretending everything was fine. Aunt Grace looked between them, sensing something was off. Only Michael, sitting quietly in the corner, understood what was about to happen. Bella moved gracefully, serving food with a calm smile. Her hands didn't shake, though her heart raced. She laughed softly, joined small conversations, and made sure no one could guess what she was planning. After dinner, she brought dessert, her mother's favorite cake. Everyone thanked her, though the silence between Daniel and Melissa was heavy. When the plates were almost empty, Bella stood up slowly. "There's something I want to play for you all," she said. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and placed it on the table. Daniel frowned. "What is this, Bella?" She didn't answer. She pressed play. The room filled with familiar voices, Daniel's and Melissa's. "Daniel, in the recording, she'll never find out. She trusts you completely. She'll crawl back even if she knows." Melissa, laughing softly. "You think she'll forgive us?" "Daniel, she won't have a choice." The sound echoed around the dining room like thunder. Aunt Grace covered her mouth in shock. Melissa's fork slipped from her hand and clattered against the plate. Daniel froze, his face turning pale. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Only the faint hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Bella looked at Daniel, her eyes filled with unshed tears, but her voice was calm and steady. You were right, Daniel. I did trust too easily. She took a deep breath and continued, her tone growing stronger. But you were wrong about one thing. I don't crawl. I rebuild. Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came out. Bella reached into her bag and pulled out a brown envelope. She slid it across the table toward Daniel. He looked down and saw the word divorce printed clearly on the papers inside. These are already signed, Bella said. I don't want your money. I just want my peace. Daniel swallowed hard, his voice shaking. Bella, wait. She lifted her hand to stop him. No, Daniel. You don't get to talk your way out of this one. Then she turned to her sister. And you, congratulations on the baby, Melissa. I truly hope you both find happiness, far away from me. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. Bella, please, I didn't mean. Don't, Bella interrupted softly. You both made your choice. She looked at Aunt Grace, who sat speechless, her face pale with shock. I'm sorry, Auntie. I know this is a lot to take in, but I had to free myself. Bella picked up her purse and looked one last time at the people who had once been her world. Goodbye. As she turned to leave, Daniel stood up suddenly, his voice desperate. Bella, we can fix this. I made a mistake. She paused at the doorway, her back still facing him. No, Daniel. You made a choice, and now I'm making mine. With that, she walked out of the house. The night air hit her face, cool and freeing. Behind her, the room was silent. No more excuses, no more lies. For the first time in months, Bella felt light. She didn't know what the future would bring, but she knew one thing for sure. She was finally free. Months passed quietly after everything ended. Bella's divorce was finally done. She signed the last papers and walked out of the court feeling lighter than she had in years. There were no tears this time, just relief. She moved into a small but beautiful apartment in the city. It wasn't big, but it was hers. The walls were white, the air calm, and every corner smelled of new beginnings. For the first few nights, she slept peacefully for the first time in a long time. No shouting, no lies, just silence. Bella threw herself into work. Her company noticed her hard work and promoted her to a leadership position. She now managed a full team, guiding people with quiet confidence. Every day, she grew stronger, not just in her career but inside her heart too. She also started therapy. At first, she found it hard to open up, but her therapist helped her face her pain without shame. Slowly, Bella learned that strength didn't mean hiding your wounds. It meant healing them. Michael stayed by her side through it all. He never forced her to talk, never tried to fill the silence. He was just there, steady and kind. Sometimes they went out for coffee, sometimes they simply sat in the park talking about work and life. One day, after a therapy session, he looked at her and smiled. You didn't lose a marriage, Bella. You lost dead weight. Bella laughed for the first time in months. It was a real laugh, soft, honest, and free. Meanwhile, Daniel and Melissa's world began to fall apart. Their secret became public. Friends turned away from them. Daniel's business started losing clients, and Melissa's reputation was ruined. Money problems, guilt, and shame slowly destroyed what little they had left. Bella saw them once in court when they came to settle the final documents. Daniel looked older, tired, and empty. Melissa sat beside him, pale and quiet, her eyes full of regret. Bella looked at them both, the two people who had once broken her completely. But she felt no anger, no pain, just peace. As she walked out of the court, she whispered softly to herself, sometimes healing isn't revenge, it's peace. After that, Bella decided to start something new, a business of her own. Using her marketing skills and experience, she opened a small consulting firm. It grew slowly, but every client she helped reminded her of her strength. She called it Heartline Consulting. When people asked about the name, she smiled and said, because even a broken heart can draw a strong line. Each day felt like a step forward. She no longer looked back at the pain or betrayal. She had built a new life from the ruins, and this time, it belonged only to her. Her heart was still healing, but it was beating stronger than ever. 6 months later. A rooftop cafe glows under the soft orange light of sunset. The city below hums quietly, filled with life. Bella sits across from Michael, her face calm and bright, a peace she never thought she'd feel again. The wind plays gently with her hair as she laughs at something he just said. Michael lifts his glass with a warm smile. To second chances. Bella clinks her glass against his and replies softly. To self-respect. They both smile. Not the forced smiles of survival, but real ones born from healing. As they enjoy their drinks, Bella's phone buzzes on the table. She glances at the screen. A message from Melissa. I'm sorry. I was jealous. I ruined everything. I hope someday you forgive me. Bella stares at it for a moment. Her eyes soften, not with anger but with understanding. She takes a deep breath, then presses delete. Michael notices but doesn't ask. He just smiles quietly, respecting her silence. Bella looks up at the sunset and says with quiet strength, "Let's go." I'm done looking back. They get up, walking side by side toward the rooftop exit. The golden light wraps around them, and for the first time, Bella's steps feel light-free. The camera lingers on her as she turns slightly toward the fading sun, her expression full of calm and power. Voiceover, final line. She hugged me at my wedding and hours later broke my world. But what she didn't know was, you can't destroy a woman who rebuilds herself from the ashes. Fade out. Bella walks forward. Into peace, into strength, into her new life. Hi besties. Sparkling heart, thank you so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories. See you in the next one. Bye. Waving hand sparkles.